Overview and Scrutiny Committee. My name is Councillor Sarah Trotter and I'm the chairman of this committee. And to my right is our vice chairman today, Councillor Barry Jobson. And also I want to welcome to my left our Democratic officer, Amy Pride. Thank you. I extend my welcome and warm wishes also to all our committee members, officers and cabinet members, together with our representative from Alliance SK, Councillor Virginia Moran. And I also welcome leader of Alliance SK, Councillor Ashley Baxter. I look to the back, we've got visitors, I've got him down, Councillor Harish Bisnani, and I apologise for my pronunciation, Harish. Councillor Harish, and I also welcome Councillor Linda Wooden, welcome, and any other visitors to our committee meeting. Just a bit of housekeeping, please ensure your mobile phones are switched off or turned to silence. I have not been notified of a fire alarm practice, but should the alarm sound, please can you move swiftly outside of this building to the front? Thank you. May I remind non-members that it is at the discretion of the chairman if you wish to speak, and priority will be given to committee members. Thank you. Within our agenda today, we discuss issues, some of which are close to our hearts, particularly those most impacted by the cost of living crisis within our district. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please can I request that you indicate to our Vice Chairman, Councillor Barry Dobson, by raising your hand. This meeting will be recorded and the recordings retained in accordance with the Council's document retention policy. So, moving to item 1 on the agenda, public speaking. Do we have any members of the public who have requested to speak, Amy?
We haven't had any members of the public request to speak, but I do believe Councillor Baxter is entitled to speak. Thank you.
I'll ask you, Councillor Baxter, is it in relation to the agenda we've got in front of us today? Yeah, if you want to
yes, Chair.
Comment.
Thank you. I just want it noted that I did submit a question to be asked under the public speaking session. I wanted to ask Councillor Robert Reid about the potentially false and defamatory statements that he made at a recent full council meeting. But officers have decided that the question would be out of order and I accept their decision.
Thank you. Do you want to reiterate at all? I'm looking to anyone in the room. No, thank you, Councillor Baxter. Okay, if we could now move on, please, to item 2, which is apologies for absence and replacement members. I think we've got a full house, have we, Amy?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. All committee members are present and Councillor Virginia Moran is sitting on the vacant seat for Alliance SK. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming on this now wet and miserable day. And some of us have probably got wet before we even started the meeting. Moving on to item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any members who have an interest to declare? This can also be declared throughout the body of the meeting. Nope. So we'll now move on to item 4, which is the minutes from the meeting held on the 23rd of June 2022. If you could all please refer to pages 3 to 14 in your agenda pack. So I'll be taking each page in turn. Can I ask if there are any comments or observations as I go through each page? So page 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and finally page 14. Are there any other additional comments from committee members before I move on? Thank you. Please may I have a proposer for the minutes? Councillor Ray Watton, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Richard Dixon Warren. All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Moran. Motion carried. I mean, minutes are carried and approved. Thank you. Item 5 is the minutes held from the joint meeting of the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee and Rural and Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 27th of June 2022. If you want to refer to pages 15 to 24 on your agenda pack, again, taking each page in turn, can I ask if there are any comments or observations? Thank you. But obviously these have, have been published online. So if we could go to page 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Any comments? Please can I have a proposer for this set of minutes? Proposer. Councillor Barry Dobson propose and Councillor Hilary Restrop second. All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Yeah, carried. Thank you. Minutes approved. Okay. Right, we'll now move to item 6, which is updates on actions agreed at the previous meeting. So that if we turn to page 25 and 26 on your agenda pack. I think you'll see that the first item is a verbal update provided by myself at a committee meeting. So it was for myself to query the lack of attendance from PCSOs and representatives of Lincolnshire Police at parish council meetings. So I just want to update you with the following. So we have a new team leading the police locally. Previously, the Chief Inspector was Phil Vickers, Chief Inspector Vickers, and the Area Inspector was Inspector Gary Stewart, who's now since retired. So we have a new team. So I just want to make you aware of who the names now. So we've got Chief Superintendent John McAdam. We've got Chief Inspector John Shield, who I spoke to yesterday. And our new area inspector is Mark Hilson. And both the Chief Inspector and area are based at Grantham. So at a last meeting called by the Chief Executive, it was clear that the new team wanted to seek a process of engagement, and they were also recruiting 7 more PCSOs for the area. I mean, obviously, the training process for PCSOs, I'm not sure of the exact period, but it's probably, it's two years for a police constable. So we're talking a similar amount of time, but it's still positive news. And also the housing, as we, I'm digressing a little bit, but I think it's relevant. The housing and public protection teams are meeting with them weekly to go through case files. Andrew Cotton, who unfortunately is not able to attend today, is meeting John Shield to discuss strategic matters, and our Chief Executive meets with John McAdam once every 2 months. However, they have all agreed to come together once a quarter to review improvements and joint working. I think this gives a good background how the joint partnership is working. It is understandable the police team have been under pressure with local resources and carrying a number of vacancies, but I am sure working together with a reasonable approach to attend parish meetings at least once a year to discuss local issues is achievable, and I've actively engaged with Chief Inspector Shield to aim to achieve this, or at the very least, regular reports updating each parish with crime updates. I am in conversation with the Chief Inspector, so hopefully across the area you will be seeing more police presence, and we will know probably who our local PCSO is and constable if we don't already know that. But I think it's positive. Sorry, Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you. I always have difficulty finding email addresses for police contacts. Could I ask you to circulate the email addresses of the senior officers for the area to us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course, because it's just a name, it's generic, obviously. So yes, of course, I'll do that. I only got the contacts a couple of days ago, so that's certainly something I'll do. Thank you, Councillor Cleaver. Are there any more questions, Councillor Wotton?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Would it be possible to please attend a future crime disorder meeting at our committee to give us an update?
Yes, of course. I think we not too long ago had the update from, I think it was Chief Inspector Vickers. So, but that is noted, and I'm aware, and hopefully with it, with a few months on, they'll get comfortable, and we'll have had some, pre-meets with them beforehand. So yes, of course, Councillor Wotton. Do I have any more questions from members? Yeah. Harish, obviously as a guest, and we have no members wishing to speak, I'm happy to take your question.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick questions with regards to the ability to contact the police on the day. I would very much like to know, probably many people in Stamford would like to know, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, if we have got a number that we can phone police when there is something happening on our high streets. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the 110. 101 it is, yeah, sorry, I had a bit of a moment there. 101. I know it does take a bit of time to get through to someone on the other end, but I think that's what they'll probably say. But of course, I'll pose a question for you, Harish. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Baxter, and I'll take this as my last question on this item.
Thank you. Are you talking about all? We're not just talking about the police, we're talking about the whole of agenda item 6, are we?
I'm just, at this moment, I'm focusing on, is it a question on the rest of the action sheet?
Yes.
Okay, can I please ask if is there any committee members, because we're moving item by item. I just want to check if there's any other observations or questions from committee members, and then of course I'll ask you. Yeah, on item 6. Yeah, Councillor Cleaver.
Sorry, yes, in relation to minute number 9, fuel poverty data, I have no record of that email that's referred to there. Email sent on 13th of July about fuel poverty data. I've not.
Oh, you're looking at number 9.
I am, sorry.
Yeah, we did go through this earlier, and I can double check, but I think it was sent. Yeah.
I'm happy to go back and I can forward the email on to you.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. so Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. Sorry, have we had the verbal update about Homes for Ukraine?
Obviously, like on here, it's ongoing. We haven't got a verbal update today. It has been discussed. All I can say is we are still accepting Ukraine's into families. In fact, within my ward, we've got a resident who is taking in a mother and her daughter, and clothing has been given, etc. And the council is still working hard to house the Ukraine. So I think we are still one of the districts who's welcoming the Ukraine family. But obviously, Jodie's not here today. She did speak last time at the last meeting, but yeah, sorry.
Sorry, for clarity, the agenda item says minute number 10, the head of housing to link into community groups to gather positive examples. Has that work been done?
What on item 10 are you talking about?
Yes, it says
It's
verbal,
ongoing, it says.
verbal update to be provided at committee meeting. That'll be the next committee meeting.
Yeah, we will ensure that it gets, you know, as you say, it's ongoing. We have discussed it, and Craig, we have discussed it with Craig, and Craig will give you a further update.
If I may, we've got 4 examples of some fantastic work going on predominantly in the south of the area. We've had some fundraising for local Ukrainians via music concerts. Ukraine Peace Walk, which was attended by quite a large number of people, in several hundreds of people. Every other Friday there's meets up at the Christ Church, which is called or labelled the Friday thing, and there's quarterly food share at Christ Church International Culture Fest. So we're obviously continuing to collate that information, and we'll forward that to future committees in due course.
Thank you, Craig. Does that answer your question?
That answers that question, but my main question about this updates from previous meetings concerns page 24. When we talked about the environment update,
We've moved on now from the minutes.
you're
and
talking
we've
about
approved.
you're talking about updates from previous meetings. I'd like an update, please, on what's happened regarding the decision to regarding the grounds maintenance contract, because I understand that there has been some progress with that.
Right, we're having a joint meeting, the environment meeting, the committee meets next week, and that will be discussed in due course. I'm not willing to go through your question. As I say, it's at my discretion, and I'm sure it discussed it. Councillor Harris, and as I say, I want to move on after now.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick one. I wonder if it is possible, while Amy is sending the email for the various types of heating, can I have a copy of it, please?
Yeah.
For my information. Thank you.
Oh, Councillor Cleaver, and then we really will move on.
Sorry, apologies
It's all right.
for jumping about slightly. But while we were on the Homes for Ukraine,
Yeah.
I am aware that, of course, the original placements were for 6 months, and so there is an issue. Could we get an update from Jody Archer about what's happening in terms of people's situations that for many people, the 6 months being up? Could we have an update on that at some point?
Yeah, of course, and Craig's
you.
nodding. I'm sure it's something he'll take up, and I presume email you an update. Is that correct, or bring it forward? Thank you. Oh, Councillor Robert Reid, thank you.
As a point of information, Madam Chairman, there is a grounds maintenance option meeting scheduled for Thursday for 3 options that are being considered, and we will report from that. There will be an update forthcoming.
Yeah, thank you. I think that answers Councillor Baxter's problem.
No,
Thank you,
I'm sorry.
Councillor Baxter. It's at my discretion.
I'm sorry.
You're a guest here. I've gone through the action sheet, and I think it's been answered
But-
very
but
well.
you haven't.
So I'm going to now move on to item 7.
Chair,
Can
I'd like
um,
clarity from the monitoring officer,
Yeah, please.
because I'm asking a question about the minutes of a meeting, and this is even more important because these minutes don't report to anywhere. There's nothing on the environment agenda next week. There's nothing on this agenda today. All we know is that Robert Reid is meeting with someone next week about 3 options that we know nothing about. I'd like an update from Councillor Robert Reid or anyone else about what has happened as a result of the decision that was made at the meeting that we've just mentioned the minutes of. I think that's a reasonable question. And if not here, then where do I take that question?
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. If Councillor Robert Reid wants to respond, but if not, we are going to move on to item 7. It is my meeting today. I've let you ask some questions. We've discussed that we're having a meeting next week. Well, Councillor Robert Reid, thank you.
With respect, Chair, I have
I-
asked for clarity from the monitoring officer.
Thank you. So in terms of the progress today, obviously we've signed off, we've already voted to accept the minutes. So the debate about the minutes is complete.
Mhm.
It wasn't included on the action note, of course, and I can understand that concern from Councillor Baxter. Obviously, we need to bring a paper forward regarding our next steps and for an update. And that will be done. I don't have the exact date on me, Councillor Baxter, but I can ensure that you find out exactly what the date is to enable you to take part and to give your views over the debate. I don't have the details to hand, so I'm sorry about that. Again, it's not something that's on the agenda for this meeting at the moment, and the only references in the minutes would have already been agreed.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Executive. So if we could now move on, item 7, I've not received any announcements or updates from either the Leader of the Council, Cabinet Member, Head of Paid Service. So unless anyone's got any observations, I'm going to move on to item 8. Housing regularity compliance update. So if we could just refer to pages 27 to 38 of your agenda pack. This report sets out that the committee notes the latest compliance following the ongoing meetings with the regulator of social housing, and that the committee receives a further update report at its next scheduled meeting. This report is for noting only, so no voting is required. If I could please ask Councillor Robert Reid, our Cabinet Member for Housing and Property, to introduce the report. And I understand that any details or any questions will be covered by our Assistant Director of Housing, Craig Spence. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. As you have kindly introduced, of course, the compliance and regulator of social housing home standard is on forthcoming agendas as a standard item, of course, with the focus on landlord health and safety issues. I confirm that the Chief Executive, the Assistant Director of Housing with me, and indeed the Director, along with myself and the leader, continue to do our regular meetings, and that indeed the officers are continuing with their meetings with the regulator. There is a further all members briefing for housing being arranged to ensure that everyone is updated with key areas. For example, the housing revenue accounts business plan. We're looking forward to showing the first progress on the digital housing management system that we're working to be fully live in April. And again, from today's housing workshop members, we are going to be talking about proving the collective communication with members with the Housing Enquiry Service, because as we all know, several of us get asked the same question often by one member of the public, and it's good that the response is known by each person that's been contacted. Referring back to the agenda, as is attached in Appendix 1, the report shows changes within the performance and the measures that have been in moving these towards higher compliance percentages. And of course, the meeting was rearranged following the sad loss of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, and the Director will provide the latest figures to the committee in a moment. We continue to work with tenants, even if they want to be negative and not cooperating in relation to our gas appliances and electrical inspections in their homes. I think from the housing workshop, Madam Chairman, today we also established that my fellow housing members of the workshop that take regional help as being the eyes and ears in helping me as a portfolio holder, have been prepared and put a helpful suggestion that they are prepared to actually go and knock on the doors of these people and explain that it's for their safety that these inspections are required. It's not an inspection of their living standards. Jodie Archer, our housing manager, is going to provide in the next couple of weeks a working list for each member to see if they can assist on a friendly nature, albeit the statutory route, of course, is by court action. I'd also like to highlight the progress that has been made, and they will continue to be updated in the committee reports, and look forward to being informative of any questions that's asked of this afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I know I've got a question from Councillor Wootton. Do you want, Craig, do you want to speak after Ray's asked his question? Do you want to wait until Craig's spoken, or? Yeah, I think that's probably best. Yeah, please.
Okay, so just to provide you with the compliance figures as of the end of October, which are the last figures that have been reported to the Social Housing Regulator. Our Legionella completions were still at 100%, our performance is 100%. Our gas has slightly improved to 99.66%, with 16 properties being non-compliant. Electrical safety had increased to 86.68%, and our asbestos fire risk assessments and lifts all remain at 100%.
Thank you. And I just want to add, I actually was invited to sit on the working group this morning simply because I wanted to get into it and know what it was all about. And I'm so pleased I did. And I think, Craig, do you mind just saying, just confirm that we're moving towards the compliance being lifted?
That's the ultimate goal, Chair. Obviously, we're in the process of scoping out an audit for us to then undertake to verify the position that we're reporting to the regulator. That will then be presented to the regulator and the board for them to then hopefully sign us off from the regulatory notice in due course. So that's obviously our ultimate goal. We're in the process of compiling the specification for that audit in conjunction with the regulator to make sure that it meets their satisfaction.
Thank you, Craig. Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairman, I welcome this report and the progress that's been made to date. I recall at the previous meeting, there are a number of properties where warrants have been issued to gain entry. Have those warrants now been executed and those tenants seen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I can provide an update on that. Unfortunately, the 17 warrants that we had listed for court in August, we weren't actually called into the court on that date, so those had to be carried forward. We did gain access through kind of tenant engagement on our own behalf, which is why the numbers reduced to 16 in August. But we are continuing to go through the court warrant system with regards to gas. So that is something that we are continuing to do. They are successful generally post that point, yes.
Madam Chairman, how many people are outstanding at the moment? Thank you.
At the end of August, we had 16 that were outstanding, and that's out of a total of 4,629. So we've had 4,613 completed in the last 12 months.
Yeah, thank you. Do I have any further questions from committee members? Councillor Moran.
Hi, I'm going back to an old subject, but I just have looked myself. Did we ever have sight of the HSE reports about the safety breaches at Riverside?
I think Craig's.
Yeah, if I can come back on that, we've been in constant communication with the HSE. That we haven't actually received the report yet. We had to escalate that within the HSE because we were promised it some time ago. We've had some assurance this month that we'll be receiving some news before the end of this month. So obviously following receipt of that, we'll obviously bring that through council process.
Thank you. I think Councillor Robert Reid wants to respond as well, Councillor Moran.
I'd just like to confirm that owing to the fact that the response hasn't been received and that we've been long awaiting it, and if you remember back, we were promised this at the end of April. Time's gone on and on and on. At the compliance meeting before last, we were still really concerned that we hadn't received it. And it was agreed that the chief executive and the leader would jointly write to express our concern as to why we still hadn't received it. We have had an acknowledgement back this month, and it was quite a strange response. It was an admission apology that we hadn't received it, and that we would receive a response by the end of October. Now, what seems strange to me is that we have an acknowledgement of a response. It would have been good if the text had have read that we would have had an acknowledgement of the findings, but the word response was used. So here we are in October. We'll have to see where we get to, but believe you me, it's not for the one to chime. We believe that we have interpreted through our journey of compliance and all the other mechanisms and improvements that we've done within housing, that we should have addressed everything that could possibly be there, but we don't know because we don't know the findings. Thank you.
Yeah, I am aware of the massive amount of work and care that's been put into the people of Riverside once the problems were properly brought to the surface. I just thought I'd missed it somewhere along the line. I thought we must have had it by now, but I couldn't find it. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Moran, for bringing that up. Do I have any other questions from committee members? Any non-committee members? I'm happy to. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful that we have a timescale for the HSE report. Hopefully, depending on them, by the end of October. I wondered if we had a timescale for when we expect to be out of special measures for the housing regulator. I'm pretty sure that it was mentioned in the leader's speech at the annual general meeting that one of his achievements was that we were nearly out of special measures. So I'm just wondering how long it would be before we get to that glorious day when we can say that we are now no longer having to report all the jot and tittle to the housing regulator.
Councillor Reid.
Okay, yes, we are all looking forward to the day that happens. I think it's not that we look forward to just the day that we receive that exemption, because I think we all know the lessons that it needs to be ongoing what we actually do. However, where we actually are is our director is working on the procurement for the final external audit. And when that audit is completed, that will be what the regulator will finally sign us off by. We believe that our audit is not only well advanced, but that our preparations are solid. There is the answer.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Councillor Moran.
I just want to say on the figures for compliance, compared to where we were when we put ourselves in special measures, I believe these figures are just fantastic. The work that's been put in to get these figures to where they are now, I rather suspect you could pick any council at random and audit them, and they wouldn't be even remotely close to where we are. I mean, the worst figure is 86.68%. 86%. You know, it's crashing the place. No, and I think the staff and the officers and cabinet members that have been responsible for getting these sort of results. That's to be commended.
Yeah, thank you. I completely agree with what you said, Councillor. Congratulations. It's amazing where we are heading to where we were, and I can only thank Craig, Andrew and their team, and of course Councillor Reid's hard work as well. Councillor Reid, sorry, you want to come
sorry
back?
to come back. I think I'd just like to carry on from what Councillor Moran has actually alluded to, where we are particularly with the gas compliance. What we've all done, every single one of us, members, officers, we've all worked at really getting its gas compliance 100%. Now, I've said this afternoon that working members have very kindly volunteered with these people who've got court orders and still not let us in through the door, that they will go and knock on the doors, and we're trying to make it timely that this operation can happen during half term. What I wanted to actually remember that was in the dialogue is the fact that officers have already knocked on the doors and they have already tried, but it might just be that the people that won't let us do these inspections might trust their ward member a little bit more and will just allow us in to do the safety audit check. And that's and the initiative that came out of this morning's workshop is absolutely brilliant. So we'll see if even with that help, even before we get to the court orders, whether we can really get those last few people to allow us access. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yes. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
But it was, Chair, it was the gas ones that we're having a crack at. I think, to be fair, if we get a success with those few on the gas, I'm going to be cheeky and I'm going to ask my working party members if perhaps we could have a go at the final few electric ones and see if we can get any success on those as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and if allowed, I'm more than happy to join in with the working party for the very rural area. I know it's a different patch to some of the urban housing, but yeah, really good. And I think some people won't open the door. Unfortunately, some people, got quite reclusive after COVID and appreciate they don't want to open the door. But if a friendly face can get them to open the door, that's great. And perhaps I did think perhaps if we had a calling card when we did go with our councillor details, sorry you weren't in, but this is why we called. So yeah, thank you. Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, I was just asking Councillor Reid, we're going to get notification, so all the ward councillors get notification of who hasn't let anyone in or haven't been available, and so that we can do something about it as well. Possible?
Well, thinking on my feet here, today it's a new action that we've agreed for the working party to do. There's not very many. I think to start with, it would be a good idea to let them, because we've got working party members attributed to each area. If you remember, we've got 2 for Grantham, 1 for Bourne, 1 for Sanford, and 1 for Market Deeping. So I think we'll start there. But you're quite right. We haven't run it by the director either because he's not here. But Craig has no reason to believe that if it is that we knock on the doors and we introduce ourselves that it is for their safety, and we don't eluding any further than that, please will you allow this to happen and get a commitment, then perhaps that might be another road, but hopefully a friendly soft road to just say, for goodness sake, it's for your safety that we're wanting to do this. Let's see where we get with that, and we will we can follow on with the electric ones, which are a little bit behind, yet they were still getting there. And then I think if we If we're stuck beyond that, you're absolutely correct in saying very often people that have these objections, possibly they know their own ward member and they might have some allegiance with them. So again, that's another good avenue for us to explore. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I'll just take 2 more questions. Councillor Cleaver, please.
Thank you. I was unaware until today that there was this housing workshop or working group taking place. As this is a scrutiny committee and I'm a member of the scrutiny committee, could I ask for a written update of what was decided at that meeting, please? Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Oh, well, it might help Councillor Cleaver to understand the premise of the working group. Okay. When I took over the portfolio of housing, the first thing I did was I visited the 30 sheltered housing schemes. You will probably have some recollection that there was some significant problems with some of the heating systems in them, particularly at the Riverside. The first thing I did at the Riverside was go and visit the Riverside, and I've been back there many times. It took me 3 days to actually undertake this, let alone the fact at the time there was nearly 6,000 council properties as well. And obviously I wouldn't be able to visit all of those. And I realised what I really needed was I needed some eyes and ears to be able to help me from Claypole down to just south of Deeping St. James to actually be able to help with individual circumstances and situations. And I discussed this with the leader, and he and I felt that the vehicle of a designed extra scrutiny committee just for housing really wasn't the vehicle to go. Housing is covered by rural and communities, as you see, and this is what this housing group would actually do. And it's from that the vehicle of the housing inquiry system, which we've now got properly established. So I appreciate it's taken us 2 attempts at it, but we've now got that working. And it's with the help of this group that we now want to streamline the communication. And it gives me a good opportunity this afternoon to actually mention what we said this morning, because in scrutiny meetings, you've asked that if there is a ward issue, that ward members are included. And I remember that request some meetings ago, but and I haven't forgotten it. But what we want to do is we want to see that when somebody's got a problem, sometimes they will choose every single route to see that somebody else might get a result maybe that they don't want to hear. And so what we are going to do is when we get the housing inquiry replies, the officers have a mechanism that they can search by address. And so that when the reply goes out in the future, it's going to go out to all the people that have actually raised that individual inquiry, and including the ward representative. So hopefully that will avoid duplication. Hopefully it will help put some discipline in the system, and hopefully it will give peace of mind to all of us when a housing inquiry is raised and on occasion something is missed or something has got cancelled, or that, you know, there are issues, but it is helpful that we are all actually understanding the same hymn sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I'm very pleased to hear that you found a mechanism for bringing these issues forward. That's obviously a positive step. But come back to the thrust of my original point. This is the Scrutiny Committee, which has responsibility for rural communities and includes housing. And therefore, it's not unreasonable as a Scrutiny Committee for us to be given the opportunity to scrutinise the things that you just said. And therefore, I would request that in future, the sort of things you've just described should be in the papers for this meeting for us to be aware of. That's all. Thank you.
I mean, Councillor Reid might want to add to this, but some of the things that we discuss is issues across the ward, and I think it works a lot better in a workshop as such, and discussing, not in a public forum like this. And we have fairly healthy agenda for this committee. I understand what you're saying, but I think you've got to draw the line somewhere as what comes here and what's discussed. You know, we can bring issues like on our personal ward, if a certain household hasn't got heating, or, you know, it can be raised. It's a workshop for all, if you know what I mean. It's a workshop for sort of Craig and Andrew to report, you know, what they're doing, and equally so within that workshop, it's for us if we've got any questions. But Robert, you probably can, you've been going to them a lot longer than me.
No, I would endorse what you're actually saying, but I'd like to actually demonstrate it to you a little bit further by actually going through very quickly and timely what actually was on the agenda. So there's obviously the notes of the last meeting, as you would have, and any apologies and whatever. Then we had a topic on member contact and challenging customers, which I've spoken to you about today. Members' inquiries and complaints, which I've spoken to today. Compliance update, that comes statutory here anyway. Voids is again something that comes and is scrutinised here, and the void turnaround dates. The digital housing management solution system that we're putting together, I bark on about all the time, and we've got a housing presentation, and we're not only going to do that for members, it's on your forward work programme as well, or if it isn't, I've made a note of it for later. The big listen update I'm going to speak about in a minute. Earlsfield is a very, very integral thing in the decamp and the movement of the 153 homes that are being upgraded with the various issues. That comes up all the way across. So the only thing that really isn't there is sort of any other business that comes up as the way it does do. And the one thing that we have found is beneficial and inclusive. It's not a scrutiny, the workshop is not a scrutiny meeting. However, what we have established is that the chair of this committee was interested and has been twice. We have established to date it's a good idea that we have a visiting slot so that another member can come and be involved and actually see what the group actually do. And there is an invitation to Ashley Baxter to come to the next one, because I'd already got the chairman this time. I didn't know, otherwise I could perhaps have changed it because she'd been twice, and it would be the first visit for Councillor Baxter. But that's where we are on it. It's not to be exclusive or exclusive. It's just a matter of the way the working group work. Sometimes we need to understand and appreciate the working patterns of both officers and members, which happens in that as well. And I'm very grateful for the time that they all give.
Thank you for that. Sorry. Thank you for that. And I don't disagree with anything that you say, but I am concerned that at this council that our scrutiny committees do work as efficiently and are as fully informed as possible, because that's our role. And therefore, just a simple request, could you just put out a simple note after each workshop to let us know the main headline outcomes, and then leave it to members of this committee to decide whether they want to raise anything for the agenda of the next meeting? I don't think that's a particularly burdensome thing to ask, is it?
Councillor Reid.
Okay, well, let me put a helpful suggestion forward then. What currently happens, because it is of all seriousness, is that we have a housing regulator update each time you have a meeting. I don't have any problem at all with having giving a working members update, which will be firstly agreed by the working members. And in actual fact, we've tried now to streamline them, that they happen on the same day. as in fact the rural OSC. We're quite happy. I'm sure that they will be quite happy, but I will also go by, I don't exactly chair that meeting. It's a meeting it's a collective meeting of all of us, but the census, there's no reason why I shouldn't share that with you. You can clearly see the working sheets very much behind what the service has to offer. So that's absolutely fine. I know in previous occasions I have been challenged to give minutes on it, but that's not really what it's about. And I don't, it is a working partnership, and there needs to be some form of solidarity, some form of security, that because we're not always in that group. Sometimes we pick up the wrong dimension about something. So, you know, we collectively come to the decisions that's made, but it's no problem in actually telling you what those actually are. It's fine by me.
And I do think what you've discussed at the working party, it's very often discussed here anyway, the what I call the key issues. So is that answer your question, Richard?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Baxter, I'm mindful of time. I'll take one more question, but if it's anything that can be discussed at the next working group, because obviously I know you've got an invite. So is there anything that...
I've got 2 points, Chair. The first one is I'm grateful to Councillor Reid for offering an invitation. I don't really understand why I wasn't allowed to attend this morning, but I don't take it personally. I've been thrown out of workshops before, and I think it's indicative of a wider problem in the council, and we really need to pin down what we mean by a member's briefing or a member's workshop and minutes and action notes and so on, because from the outside, anyone outside looking in at the council would think, why are there so many things that seem to be taking place behind closed doors? My second question is to Councillor Reid. He didn't answer the question I asked earlier on about when do we expect to be out of special measures. What if I understood him properly? He said that we were in the process of procuring an auditor, and when the auditor arrives and has done their audit and presented that to the regulator, then we will be out of measures. That sounds like a long time to me, but I'd take advice if it isn't. Personally, I prefer to know we expect by Christmas. That would be a good answer.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. I'm going to put you across to Craig, our Assistant Director of Housing, but I just want to point out on the record, I attended today by invitation. I'm not going next week. Your colleague, Councillor Moran, was there, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to speak to you about anything we've spoken about. So I don't want you to think, and I'm sure the working group, that you were thrown out, because you weren't thrown out. So thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Chair. We're hoping to have the audit commencing in November, with the report due before the end of November, to hopefully then take to the regulator in December. And it just depends upon their meeting protocols and the way that they can get that before their board, for them to then allow us to kind of have that audit viewed there and then hopefully be signed off in the regulatory notice. Our goal would be sometime around December, January time, but it's very difficult to put a timeline on that until we can actually get the firm timeline for the audit to be both undertaken and the report to be completed.
Thank you, Craig. As that was for noting only agenda item 8, I'm now going to move on to agenda item 9. We have the cost of living strategy. Please refer to page.
Do we not vote that we accept the recommendations at the beginning of the report?
No, it's for noting only.
Oh, okay.
Moving to item 9, we have the cost of living strategy. Please refer to pages 39 to 53 in your agenda pack. This report sets out the steps of the South Kesteven District Council and partners in public, voluntary and community sector can take to provide support and advice to those who have been most impacted by the cost of living. The committee is asked to note the following. Note the support that has been provided so far to residents and businesses as detailed in Appendix 1, pages 45 to 49, And 2, notes the actions to be taken as detailed in Appendix 2, pages 51 to 53. I will request a vote to be taken to support the establishment of a strategic working group and external stakeholder group at the end of the presentation. But please can I ask our Cabinet Member, Welcome Annie, for People and Safer Communities to introduce the report. And we also are very lucky here to have Claire Moses, who is the author of the report, Head of Revenues, Benefits and Customer Services, who will take any questions or detail further the report. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The cost of living report was due to come before this committee at the last scheduled meeting, but obviously it was postponed due to the sad passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. The cost of living crisis is a grave concern for each and every one of us, for all our residents and our businesses across the district. A cost of living strategic working group was created in August 2022, chaired by myself and supported by senior managers in key areas such as community engagement, communications, economic development, finance, housing, and revenues and benefits. We all meet on a weekly basis. As a result of our earlier meetings, we designed a cost of living information and advice hub within our website, which was created as a result of the Cabinet Office launching a Help for Households campaign, which explains all the different government schemes available to help with the cost of living, including new one-off payments as well as existing benefit payments. The website signposts to all the organisations that can give practical support and guidance and is updated regularly as new organisations comes through offering support. Feedback has been given from third-party organisations on the content, and this feedback has been really positive and proactive. We are very much aware that not all our residents are able to use the computer and the internet, and this is on the action plan to consider ways of reaching those residents, which could well be through parish and town council networks. And we're also mindful that our rural areas also need to be included on our decisions. A notice of motion was supported by Council on the 22nd of September 2022 to formalise a coordinated response to help and support people cope with the rising cost of living. We've established a cross-partner approach to the cost of living crisis, which will include an internal strategic working group, which, as I've already mentioned, is myself and the senior management. And in addition to that, an external strategic task force has been developed for collaborative working. We held our first task force meeting yesterday, and I'm pleased to report it was very productive. We split the group into 3 working groups to discuss various questions around the cost of living, and there was absolutely the same theme running all through the working groups, mainly that benefits that were available were not being claimed. 2 in particular were pension credit, which if not claimed can seriously impact the cost of living payments that the government are offering, and tax credits were also identified as not being claimed for. It was mentioned that some people were not claiming the maximum that could be claimed. So, for example, on the personal independence payment, you've got several different layers. And also difficulty reaching people. So all the organisations had their own ways of reaching, but some groups of residents were just not being reached. It was agreed that as a task force, we would initially provide a focus on providing collaborative support across organisations, working on preventative actions before they get to crisis point, promotion of financial support for income maximisation, so promotion of take-up of benefits such as pension credit, and signposting for SKDC teams into organisations, so it's a clear flow as to who to refer to, how and when. SKDC cost of living website to continue to be updated and linked to each task force organisation from the SKDC cost of living website. Overview of the support each task force organisation provides for our staff to be aware, as well as other organisations. Support for a public event, Let's Talk Money, and how we can overcome the barriers. So as well as creating a strategic task force group, our plan is to hold a cost of living crisis support events across the district. So the organisations in the room agreed it would be a great way to connect with people and offer support, but it was noted that we need to be careful with our messaging. So there's still a huge stigma about needing help with food and utility costs and debt advice, etc. So it's really important that we communicate in such a way as to not put people off coming. One of the organisations present mentioned that it was Talk Money Week commencing on the 7th of November, so it'd be an ideal time to actually do a public event during that week. So we are looking into whether organisations and venues are available at any time that week, and it's hoped we could have a morning or an afternoon in each of the 4 towns. Communicating this might be an issue, but we can do a press release and hopefully generate some interest through the radio too. We could ask parish and town councils to also help us communicate this, and it's quite critical that events are held before the winter months, obviously to give support and advice and guidance on keeping homes warm. We could also look at inviting the main community groups of that area too, so they can promote the support that they offer locally. And of course, it'll be a warm space for people to come for a few hours and have a cuppa. We are acutely aware of the mental health and emotional wellbeing implications that come hand in hand with this crisis, and it will form a big part of our strategy. Encouraging our residents to take care of their physical and emotional wellbeing when facing real financial hardship and worries will be a challenge. And there will need to be links into the mental health working group and be picked up as part of the actions for the cost of living strategic working group. A lot of action has already taken place since this report and immediate actions were written. So we've agreed to develop an action plan to focus on key objectives. So this will be shaped by the weekly meetings and input by the task force group. Identify themes of support to continue the correct focus is given. Identify actions from each theme and assign them to most relevant officer within SKDC to drive it forward. Complete risk assessments for each service area which potentially could be impacted, such as revenues and benefits, housing, customer service, environmental health, and develop a communications plan. Work with partner organisations to achieve all this, because we can't achieve this alone. There's only so much that we can do. By partnering with the main organisations, we can hopefully create a strong network of referrals across our district. Some of the themes identified include food and security and poverty, fuel and energy poverty, financial, which is debts, communications, prevention of homelessness, skills, employment and business, and health and wellbeing. With regards to us being an employer and having responsibilities for our own staff, we are planning a financial wellbeing week in line with the National Talk Money Week, led by Money and Pension Service from the 7th to 11th of November. And there's going to have lots of activities, including a session with the citizens' advice, employment assistance, webinar on financial wellbeing, promotion on our discount schemes and benefits, promotion of local charities that may be of help. And of course, this will come back to a different committee, the Employment Committee, in more detail on what we're doing for our staff. As you know, we are constantly communicating with our staff through the communications team about their mental wellbeing. So we are reporting all of this to this scrutiny committee today to see if we've missed anything and see if there's any area you feel we need to add to our focus. So we are asking you to support the creation of the internal strategic working group and external task force group. I'm asking you to note the support that has already been given and the actions that we are taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Huge amount of work and positive strides has clearly been made in a short space of time, which speed is of the essence, I think. So I thank you for that. I don't know if Claire wants to add anything, but if not, I'm sure Annie will take any questions.
No further comments from me, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. I thought I'd give you the opportunity. Do I have Ray, Councillor Wootton, you wish to make a comment or a question?
Yes, thank you very much, indeed, Madam Chairman. I welcome this report, and it just shows what this district is doing to help our local people and also the government as well. Then I have a couple of questions regarding people which I see have fallen perhaps through the net, who are not on benefits but are asset rich and low in cash, and therefore do not qualify for benefits for help. And also, what are we doing for those people who cannot speak English as their native language? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wootton. Do you wish to respond? Oh, Claire, if you want to respond, thank you.
Through you, Madam Chairman. With regards to the residents that don't qualify for benefits, we do recognise that they are a very hard to reach area. We are finding that with our household support fund that we've got available at the moment. So we are lucky that we have a district network of the other councils, and we have a meeting with Lincolnshire County Council tomorrow and the district networks to talk about how we can contact those residents. It is very difficult because if there's other funding available, if we put a press release out to say that funding's available, we would be inundated with requests of support. So it's trying to find that balance. There are services available to us that can provide us with this information, and they can give us details about people that are on the cusp of not receiving that support because they are classed as the just about managings. So they are on our radar, and they are a cohort of people that we definitely want to look at supporting.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could I ask then perhaps we could think about using our parish councils to get this message out to those hard to reach people?
Yes, of course, you know, sorry, Claire.
Oh, no, sorry, Madam Chairman.
No.
I just realised I didn't answer the second part of the question regarding those residents that don't speak English. So we are able to work with the Department for Work and Pensions, and they do have a lot of information that is available in other languages, and some of our other third sectors such as Citizens Advice will also be able to provide that for us as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's hitting every one of us really in some shape or form. A lot of us have got mortgages, so it is good to hear that there is help hopefully out there for people who, you know, are struggling but probably don't want to talk about it or know where to go, or pride. I think pride is a huge thing if you're struggling. So thank you. Councillor Westrop. No. Oh, sorry. Who was first? Councillor Moran, are you okay if I take? All right. We both get a turn.
I'm absolutely amazed by the amount of money that seems to be sort of just there for people. And what I wanted to know was, does this just arrive on the doorstep for some people, or do you have to claim it?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. Yes, there are application processes for statutory support such as housing benefit and council tax support. That is a means test, so an application form is required. The £150 council tax energy rebate, there was no application needed for that. The guidance was established and provided to us by central government. The household support fund, we do assess that on an income and expenditure level. So there is an application that's needed for that. The reason being for that one is because there is limited funding. So we are trying to support those that are in need and do have a lower income to expenditure ratio.
So it's actually just trying to find the people who actually need help.
Absolutely, and that's the difficulty that we are facing at the moment.
Okay, and is this time limited?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chairman. The council tax energy rebate has been, so the main scheme ended on the 30th of September. We have paid 99.8% of those people. Those that haven't had their payment is because they haven't cashed in their voucher that has been issued to them. So we are trying to contact them. The discretionary scheme is in payment until the 30th of November, and that scheme will hopefully be approved this week and we can start to get payments out to them this week. Household Support Fund, a new fund has been announced with effect from the 1st of October, and that runs through to the 31st of March. Other cost of living support, and there's a lot of it detailed on our cost of living website hub. That is a one-off payment. So a lot of that is being processed and identified by Department for Work and Pensions, and that's predicated by people being in receipt of things like pension credit and disability payments. And that's why, as Councillor Mason said, it's so important to be able to identify people to receive pension credit and those payments, because then they can then also receive supplementary support when it is announced.
A huge amount of work for everybody. Well done.
Councillor Moran.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to go back to the basics of this, the actual recommendation here. The recommendations, we support the establishment of a strategic working group and an external stakeholder group. What's the difference? I mean, I get the difference between those two, obviously. what's the difference between the task force that met yesterday, I think, and the strategic working group? Is it just a change of name? Or is it the same people, or is it another layer? It just seems if we've got a task force and a strategic working group and an external stakeholder group, it's like hundreds of you trying to sort out the same things and probably talking about the same things. So what's the difference, Sally?
Thank you, Councillor Ann. Clara, I think you wish to answer.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. The strategic working group is the internal working group, and so that is led by Councillor Mason, and then it has the officers from each of the service areas, as Councillor Mason advised in her introduction. The external stakeholder working group, the name's changed slightly as the
Yeah, I get the
weeks-
external bit. It's the task group and the strategic working group that I don't know what the difference is.
The task group is the external group. So the task force are those external organisations that were invited. So we have those. The strategic working group do attend that meeting because we facilitated that meeting on Tuesday. And as I say, then we've got the internal group, which is the strategic working group. So just the two, the strategic working group, which is internal, and the task force, which is the external group.
Right, so the task force was just the knee jerk, as it were, of people getting together. And this is the bit where we actually say there's this and there's this. Task force is going to go, is it?
It's the other way round, sorry, Chair. Is that right? So what's happened is
I
initially.
thought you just said that the task group
Can
is
I-
now the external stakeholder
Yeah,
group.
it's the same thing though. That's what we're saying. So it used to be called the external stakeholder group, and we wrote the report. This report was written and published. Since then, they've had the meeting, and now it's called.
That's what I just said.
And now it's changed its name to the task force. It's the same group.
Yeah, it was
They're
what I
after-
just said.
No, the strategic group is the group.
No.
There's an internal group and an external group. There's just two.
Can I
groups.
withdraw the question?
All right.
Got it. As long as you're happy or not happy, or Councillor Ann. Okay. I'll just take Councillor Robert Reid. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. People that need help very quickly go into mentally depressed silos. I could nearly put myself in that bracket when I've looked at my smart meter for energy for what's been used this week to last. But this happens with local and national government, and I think it's very, very important that what the county council is offering in way of support, as well as what is happening at district. It's on the website. I printed some copies off for the housing working group. Some of the benefits are in fact the same, but there are other benefits that there are other county councillors in the room as well as me know that are available as well. And it's a bit like needing a toolkit for each of us, that when you actually find somebody that needs help, did you realise that you can get? The way that responsibilities of education and adult social care and such services are undertaken by the county council, and then there's those that are the district council functions. People don't realise sometimes, don't know, and for us to be able to support, I've taken a real interest in making sure that my fellow town councillors at Bourne all have the information that they had from the county council yesterday, because we had a meeting last night. And I thank you really sincerely for the clear explanatory information of the remaining toolkit, as it were, because now I can forward that to them as well. Because sometimes people go to citizens' advice, it doesn't matter where people go to and they really need help. And you've touched on it, and Chairman, you've touched on it so many times, and it's really dear to all of our hearts that You know, it's when people sometimes are embarrassed, they don't want to ask for help. And I mean, there's a few that try the other way on, but you know, these benefits and the system that is out there is there for us all. And I think as a rain check, one of the things that has happened for several years now, and I can never say thank you enough to the Citizens Advice Bureau for the helpful advice they give on housing benefits and on housing needs. But if they're up to speed, and God, I hope they really are, with what the benefits are, both the district and the county council, you know, they will be able to help along with other things. I mean, carers, for example, you know, would they know that they can get certain benefits and entitlements for, as carers allowances, carers credit, pension credit, and such likes? You know, it's not something I find that I have the ability to actually be able to advise somebody off my cuff, and I'll keep it in my casebook at the front to see, because the wrong advice is no help at all. But to be able to encourage people and show them how and where they can get help, you know, I listen to Claire, I always have every confidence that from the portal of SKDC, those that ask either get or they get a clear answer as to why not. Okay, and I just think that it's something that in these times that are so difficult over the next 6 months, including the smart meter and the energy costs, some of these things are there and we don't even realise that they are there. So it's I would suggest that if without asking people to suck eggs, as it were, other councillors would, as it's been mentioned this afternoon, let parish councils know and town councils, because the more people that actually know about these things, and I nearly go so far as to suggest that perhaps we could actually construct maybe a table, a simple table, and perhaps publish it in the local newspaper so as it actually reaches people that aren't IT, or perhaps when they're, you know, socially they're perhaps a bit more relaxed about the situation, they could actually, you know, look at it and digest it, and then they could ask. I don't know, it's just, to me, the whole thing about this benefits that are available is about, the key thing is communication, to be fair. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Reid, some really valid points. And I'm sure Councillor Mason will respond, yeah, and I have a question after.
Thank you. Just wanted to pick up on a couple of points about your suggestion of putting a table in the newspapers. We could use SK Today for that, in that publication. You know, there is a December one. I don't know whether it's actually completed or not. I don't think it is completed. It is basically around the cost of living. So there's no reason why we can't, if it's not gone for publication, why we can't consider that. We'll check on that.
See where we are.
Yeah, and town and parish councils, we absolutely intend to engage with them. You know, we want to engage with it as many people as we can, really, to get that support out there. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, Councillor Mason, I was just, and it's probably covered, but I always think, you know, we mentioned Citizens Advice Bureau. Are they working with you within that group, and the Samaritans as well? I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the Citizens Advice are working with us, and you know, also they can do there's calculators and checks that residents can use either online or on the phone with Citizens Advice, and there's wellbeing links as well. So they look at the benefits and what people are entitled to. So there's a lot of support out there. We will put your suggestion down for the Samaritans to be included in this as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I just mentioned the Samaritans. I know they won't probably be able to say what's available, but they can say who to go to, which is, you know, most important. And obviously it's confidential as well. So anyway, I've got a few more questions. I'm mindful, Councillor Dixon Warren, you haven't asked a question, so I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm
think like everybody here, very much in support of this. I think the website is excellent. And as a parish councillor, I think that communications through the clerks to the parish councils is equally good, equally clear. I am mindful, however, as a parish councillor, that where the rubber hits the road is the people who do not have the internet. We communicate with the people in our parish through social media, through the notice board, and through word of mouth. That does not guarantee that it will reach everyone. And so I wonder whether thought might be given perhaps to a leaflet campaign. So the same message goes out to every single household. Parish councils will deliver it. What we will not do is assume that people are picking up information that we're putting out through our normal channels. An indicator of how successful we are as a parish council is that nobody ever comes to sit in on our parish council meetings. So we have to go out to the parishes and a central SKDC message will be very, very helpful to ensure that we hit every household that needs it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, Claire? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chairman. One of the actions that's been put forward by the working group, the strategic working group, is to include information within the council tax annual bill next year. But prior to that also will be that if any resident does receive a reminder for their council tax, we will look to include a leaflet in there as well. It will have signposting. We talked about signposting yesterday and said how important that was to make sure that it was accurate and very clear that we can say to our residents who they need to go to for the appropriate advice, whether that be financial or wellbeing advice. We would like to get in front of the reminders so that we can contact people in advance of that. That would be very resource intensive, but we could look at doing some work with regards to that. Also, we would like to include information with our benefit letters. So picking up on Councillor Reid's earlier comment, for those people that are in receipt of pension credit, we can also then advise them you may also be entitled to other benefits such as, so that we can steer them into that direction as well.
Thank you. I'm going to take two more questions. I understand Councillor Moran and Councillor Baxter, and then I'm going to move to the vote. Sorry. Oh, Councillor Cleaver, sorry, I didn't mean to forget you. Oh, right, I'll let Councillor Moran, because you waited very patiently.
That's all right. Something which never seems to be mentioned is when you're talking about how do people find out what they claim. It's not unfair to say that I've spent most of my adult life only just earning enough to survive on. There is a website which you can now access directly, or you can go via the government website called Untitled Chapter. It's absolutely brilliant. And I go on there approximately every 6 months because benefits change all the time. And it's really simple to operate. I've actually done it for some people who don't have laptops and this, that and the other. And I've said to them, I'm happy to bring my laptop round. I'll put it up. And if you want to type in all your answers, it doesn't keep anything unless you want it to. You can save your information if you want. I've never saved my information on it ever, but I can see what there is and it will check everything. It'll check your council tax for you. And as a result of what you may or may not be entitled to, if you've triggered, say, pension credit, it will say you may also be entitled to this and this and this and this, and it's an absolute godsend it's entitled to. What they haven't managed to sort out is the fact that because my only income is my council allowance, I'm not deemed as working because they can't quantify hours for a district councillor. So according to them, I don't work, but I can't have unemployment benefit because I get an income from the council. So I get nothing. Hey ho. So don't ask me to sponsor you for anything, please.
because it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Councillor. I mean, it's interesting what you've said about that website. I've certainly not been on it, but it is good to know. Certainly good to know, and for residents as well. So thank you for that. Claire.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. There is a link to Entitled To from the cost of living website. There is, yeah. So we've got a number of benefit calculators there, but the Entitled To one is on there. And it's under the maximising your income benefits section. That's okay.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, Richard Cleaver, if you want to.
Thank you very much. I'd like to back up what Councillor Dixon Warren said about leafleting. It is actually essential to reach everyone. There is no other way of reaching everyone that needs to know. You know, we know when we all stand for election and have to contact everybody that could possibly vote for us, that you have to put leaflets out. You can't just do it on social media. You can't just rely on what is reported in the press. So I would really like to emphasize that that's an absolute essential. And sorry, but I don't think that waiting until the council tax bills go out, we need to have something out before then. That's far too long to wait. So I would very much like to push that. If it proves that it is too expensive to reach every household in the district, which I suspect might be the case, could we at least look at targeting those areas which show up on the maps of multiple deprivation, the multiple deprivation indices, as being in the lowest 3 or 4 deciles, and at least leaflet all of those as a suggestion. But I do very, very strongly think that we need to make sure that people are properly informed with a leaflet through the door as to what help is available to them. I'm very conscious of the number of people who are vulnerable and in need through the work I do on health, who just do not have access to the internet and do not have access to a smartphone. It is an issue, and it's an issue that we can't duck. Second point, if I may, it is on. Yes, sorry. I'm trying to address the room and not talking to the microphone. It's probably a mistake. Citizens Advice Bureau, very conscious of the fact that they, certainly in Stamford, we don't have a lot of provision. In fact, we don't have any. And I know that they're not getting any support, I don't think, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong, from our Stamford Town Council. So if there's any spare money going, we tried to get this out at county last week, but failed, I'm afraid. But if there's any money that we can support CAB to actually give them more people to answer the phones, I'd like us to investigate that, please, through the working groups. And finally, just a sort of technical question, really, ask for some more clarity on Appendix 1, page 48. I'm finding this a little bit confusing and would welcome a little bit of further clarification. So it says in relation to the Household Support Fund, April to September, bearing in mind we're now in October, that the distribution of funding between LCC and SKDC is currently unknown, and yet we have a figure in there for value of support of 262,900. So those appear to slightly contradict each other. And can I ask then, do we know how much has actually been spent on which heading within SK? And do we know how much it went directly from county council to people, or did all the spend in SK come via SK? And also, given, as I say, we're already in October, and that the new scheme hasn't yet started, are payments still being made out of this retrospectively? Thank you. Sorry for the long question.
It's fine. Hopefully, I saw Councillor Mason happily writing down. I'll let her respond.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You're absolutely right. We need to improve the communications, not just from SKDC, but all of the organisations to these people that are being missed. Absolutely 100% that needs to happen. And it was a common theme that came out of the workshop yesterday. So yeah, absolutely on the right route there. The citizens' advice does get funded from SKDC as well as LCC. So that is in place, and there's two elements to it, parts of housing and then parts of core funding. So they do get funding from us. And we're going to pass over to Claire for your third question.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. The 262,900, apologies, it's not clarified on here. This was for the £110 per pensioner, which is in the penultimate bullet point of the current position. So we were able to issue £110 to 2,390 pensioners that were in receipt of pension credit. That requirement was from the Department for Work and Pensions, who provided this funding. So that wasn't a local decision that we could take. The total funding and that funding then drew down how much districts could have. And that's why that remaining funding position wasn't known until late on, around August time, at the point of writing this report. However, we have been able to support 622 households. They've had voucher values of either £100 for adult households or £200 for households with children. And we do still have 87 households that we need to get vouchers to this week. So although the scheme did close on the 30th of September, referral forms were received for those residents, but we've just got a bit of a lag time for us to get those vouchers out to them.
Councillor Cleaver, are you happy with all the responses?
Yes, thank you. Just sorry to, I'd be interested to know what the mechanism is for those, that £100 and £200 per household to be claimed, just as a point of interest.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. So the applications are through referral from either the Citizens Advice Bureau or internal teams, and the resident is required to complete an income and expenditure form. And if their expenditure is above their income or it's on the cusp, then they would have been entitled to that support.
Thank you, Claire. I'll just take one more question, Councillor Baxter, and then we'll move to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to get in before you move to the vote, because I'm a bit concerned about the recommendations or the vocabulary in the recommendations. It's a similar question to the question that Councillor Moran asked a while ago. If I've understood it right, we've got two groups. We've got an internal group and an external group. The internal group met yesterday. No, the external group met yesterday. Okay, and the external group is not on our working group, it's a task force. Okay, so recommendation 2 says supports the establishment. So recommendation 2 says supports the establishment of a strategic working group and external stakeholder group. Right, it appears that that's already been done. So I guess we're supporting what's already happened. But I think we need to be clear, because we're in enough trouble with workshops and briefings and task forces and task and finish groups and everything else already. We need to be clear about what we are supporting the establishment of. I'm not against establishing it, it's very much needed, and I recognise that because we're moving at pace, it's had to happen sooner rather than later. I think it would have been helpful to get a list of who's on which group, because the internal group, if I've understood you rightly, there's only one politician on the internal group, and then it's officers. Fine. The external group, I don't know how many politicians are on that. Just one. Well, I would suggest that on a strategic external group, that there were more than just one politician, and indeed more than just the ruling party on the task force. Task force? Task force, yes. It would be useful to have a list of who is on this task force, because I'm sure we could all suggest people who might ought to be on it. So can I ask, is there a representative on the current task force? And I realise that the table's finite. There's only so many people you can get around this task force table for it to be any use as a task force. But around this table, is there anyone that knows about education? Is there anyone that knows about health? Is there any diversity in terms of a spread across the district? is there any diversity in terms of diversity? So from different backgrounds and abilities and so on. And I'd put a particular plea in to say, have we representative from Citizens Advice Bureau? We have historically funded them. I wonder if our funding to Citizens Advice Bureau has changed in recent times. I would suggest it ought to go up, but funding.
Sorry, Councillor Baxter, you've obviously, I appreciate they're good questions, but can we just, is it possible, looking at Alan, can you respond?
Well, sorry, I'm nearly there. And
sorry, Councillor Baxter, I'm just trying to.
With respect, Chair, you listened.
Give the Deputy Chief Executive chance to respond. Fair enough, if you want to come back, but just draw breath. Sorry, I'm being polite. Please, we just let Alan Robinson respond at the moment. It's obviously my discretion for you to speak. I'm happy for you to speak, but I am also mindful of the agenda that we have to move through. Alan Robinson, thank you.
Chairman, before Councillor Baxter comes in with the point of order, I think his point of order is actually as group leader. Now, as a group leader, he's entitled to speak, but what he speaks about, obviously you control the meeting.
Yeah.
So when he speaks and about what topics.
Yeah,
is
I'm
up to you.
just,
So
trying to be fair.
just to move on. I think we probably need to, we wrote the report because we were coming to this committee during the period of public mourning. So some of the language on the recommendations probably needs to be updated. So I accept that. And I think we probably should change the recommendation. Recommendation 2.
Yeah.
To read, instead of external stakeholder group, task force.
Task force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apologies for that and any confusion caused, but obviously it's because these reports were written and published a number of weeks ago. And Councillor Baxter picked up on it really well. You're right, we've had the first meeting, but obviously this is a really time-bound issue because the winter's happening really soon, and it's already happening, isn't it? The changes to people's lives caused by the increase in fuel costs. So we wanted to move on, and apologies that they didn't get to come to this committee before we made that move. I think, let's think what were the other ones. In terms of the representatives, the CAB are definitely a representative. I've got a list here, but I think it's probably better to, rather than me read through a list, is to share that with the whole group and yourself as well, Councillor Baxter, so you can have that clear list of who was invited and who attended the meeting, if that will be useful. I think I've covered most of the questions you've had so far. So if there's any more through you, Chair, if there are any more questions to add.
So I'll just let you continue. I just wanted him, Alan Robinson, just to keep up with all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson did accurately guess my point of order, which is that group leaders are entitled to address the meeting. And I would also draw your attention to the Constitution that we did listen to Councillor Reid speak at length, and he doesn't actually have an entitlement to speak on this item at all. So I don't mind him speaking at length as long as we all get our go and we're not hurried off because it's home time. The outstanding, is that me making that funny noise? The other organisation that I was going to put in a plea for was Christians Against Poverty. I spoke to a guy yesterday from Christians Against Poverty, and he had he's based in Stamford, but he works with South Holland, South Kesteven, I think Northamptonshire. So he's got a good idea of what's happening in other authorities as well as what's happening to people on the ground. So that would be a handy connection. I know that he's spoken to the leader previously, but in recent times he hasn't had much access. So who has control of who goes to this task force? And the other outstanding question that I have that it would be inappropriate for Mr. Robinson to answer is who decides how many politicians are there and which politicians are there?
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Absolutely would love for Christians Against Poverty to join us. We are going to spread this out so that organisations that help and support our residents form part of this as well. This internal strategic working group and this external task force, it's got nothing to do with politics. It is the cost of living. I know you're pulling a face at me, Councillor Baxter, but this is about the cost of living, okay? I am the only politician on these groups, but it is going to be widened. I mean, just need to get the focus on there first, gain momentum before it's widened, because I don't want this to be about politics. But I am all for suggestions. I'm all for people saying, actually, can I join? Please do come to me and say that. Anyone? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, can I just take a quick question, Councillor?
Well, it's more a comment. I think, yes, I'm sure that our group, and I'm sure the independent group of councillors would want to have someone on the task force, and we would welcome either an invitation or a self-nomination or whichever. I'd welcome a broader range of views on there. But secondly, to say that the cost of living crisis is nothing to do with politics is laughable. It is entirely to do with politics, and without going into the national situation and all that, this problem has been caused by the Conservative government.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. Obviously, you're entitled to your views. Can I please now move to the vote? And I've made a note of the new wording. So, oh, sorry, Hilary, sat quietly. I'll
Thank you,
just
Chair.
take a question for you.
It's not really a question, it's a suggestion, really.
Yeah.
Because my brain's been going into overtime here as to how you get the information out to people, whoever they are. And we're going into winter and people are going to be watching television, they're going to be watching and listening to the radio. I mean, maybe they're an SKDC radio station.
I think Alan's looking very worried. Thank you. It did cross my mind. I was thinking of Links FM, Radio Lincolnshire. Yeah, I think a fair few of us listen to those radio channels. Thank you. So I think we can now move to the vote. So, but before we move to the vote, obviously I just want to remind you what we're voting on, because we've changed the wording slightly. So request a vote to be taken to support the establishment of strategic working group and task force at the task force. So if I could please ask for a proposer, Councillor Wotton, and a seconder, please, Councillor Richard Dixon Warren. Thank you. So if I could now move to the vote, all in favour, please. Yeah, it looks like it's unanimous. Yeah. Is that everyone? Yeah. Thank you. So that motion is carried. Thank you very much. So we'll now move to item 10, which is communications with tenants across the council. If you'd like to refer to pages 55 to 98 of your agenda pack. And it's that the committee notes the context of this report and the progress made by the Housing and Property Directorate to improve and embed the importance of communication to our tenants in line with the social housing white paper. If I could ask Councillor Robert Reid to present the report, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. We've been speaking a lot this afternoon about communication, particularly with tenants. So it's very opportune to be introducing this to you, and indeed in line with the social housing white paper, and indeed our corporate priority and the inclusion within our corporate plan. One of the big pieces of work that's been taken, of course, which we have spoken about, is the Big Listen survey, and to which we had a great response. 29% as a percentage might not seem awfully high, albeit our housing directorate have advised me it is, and indeed it was 1,723 tenants. And we had an overall satisfaction of 72%. The feedback from the surveys being reviewed and changes put in place. I guess to some large degree, the changes that could well filter through are from the 28% that have disapproval or dissatisfaction one way or another. We have had one earlier attempt at this, which is current, live, and very much working for us. And of course, this is the Rant and Rave initiative, which is a transactional satisfaction system. And the current performance is a satisfaction of 4.5 out of 5 of the 547 completed surveys. I have to say, Madam Chairman, I really welcome this because it helps us with the cultural change that has been needed in our housing service for quality of repairs and getting the job done first time. We've been up against enormous pressures through COVID times, and it's absolutely no excuse where we've only done emergency repairs. That means that routines have got further waiting lists. And indeed, then we've had the problem of tradesmen to be able to do some of the work. And just to make the whole situation worse, sometimes materials not available, short supply, or being waiting for several weeks. However, we are doing our best to address this. This has been supported by housing sessions right across the table, and we continue to do engagement and further events to be arranged. One of the next things which we haven't quite got to yet, going back to my housing working group, is we're hoping to integrate on occasion those representatives with the tenants liaison committee, so that we are strengthening the communication between tenant and landlord. Finally, Skyline continues to be an effective publication for updating to all tenants and providing satisfaction, including compliance states, landlord performance, etc. But thinking on my feet again here, perhaps we could, well, I don't think perhaps, I think it would be dutiful and right of us to get included what might be of benefit for housing tenants to perhaps it's the, what do you call it, the benefit assessment website that you can, entitled to. It would be a good idea if we put that in there so that people knew it was there to be able to use that. So I think we better make sure we've got that one noted. As I referred to on many occasions, the housing management system that we're building with relevant data and that's going to be live next April is going to move our communication from user to landlord and the journeys to and from to be much more transparent and easier for us all to manage. And I look forward to hopefully next year being able to introduce an Apex corporate management, corporate asset system, which would be able to run and be compatible and talk to the housing management solutions. So we'll be able to manage two tranches, well, the two tranches, they are our housing stock, council housing stock, and indeed our corporate assets as well. And that would help and assist and support the pressing needs of repairs and renewals, capital requirements, etc. Thereon. Enough said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. Do I have any questions from committee members, please? Councillor Wotton.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I congratulate the housing team for engagement. I attended 2 sessions, one in Manor Street and one in Riverside, where there was quite a number of tenants which asked questions and also requested jobs to be done. I spoke to tenants down there, and the majority of those jobs have been carried out, so thank you for that. I can only see down here, there's one missing Greyfriars. I was understanding there's going to be a meeting at Greyfriars, but nothing ever transpired. Is there any particular reason why that didn't happen? Or will it happen?
Craig, if you could respond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's definitely on the list, Councillor. So as soon as we get around to scheduling that one in, you'll be on the invite list for that.
Thank you very much indeed. From Manor Street, I had feedback today that one job which was quite to them quite important, the fact that one of their external doors hadn't been repaired yet, and I wonder when that will be done. It's resulted in a burglary a few months ago, and they wanted the doors secured. I wonder if that could be arranged soon, please.
Yeah, I'll look into that urgently.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. The skyline reports look very nice and colourful. We've spoken about earlier today about people who don't have the internet. Lots of people do have the internet. So can I ask the cabinet member why skyline for the summer 2022 isn't on the council's internet yet? Secondly, will we be repeating the customer or resident satisfaction survey? I would suggest we should, because although the answers are presented in a kind of positive frame, if you take the alternative, if you look at page 65, for example, and I recognise that the housing service has been through turmoil over the last 18 months, and I recognise that we've had changes of personnel, and I recognise that they've had a blooming difficult time. But if you look at page 65, it appears that at least a third of people who have had a repair or maintenance from SKDC are unsatisfied with the service. And 1 in 3 is not a very good hit rate. So my final question is, what would we see as a target? What's our target for satisfaction with these things?
Thank you, Craig, if you want to respond.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Baxter. In response to the loading of Skyline onto the website, I'll look into that. It was requested at the time of publication. I just need to check into why that hasn't happened. With regards to repeating questionnaires, very pertinent and very key. We always had an aspiration to repeat this in 2 years' time and do it as a biannual, twice, once every 2 years, so we can kind of monitor our progress and look at the way that we're improving. However, the regulators just relaunched their 12 tenant satisfaction measures standard questions, which we were the first social landlord to include in a survey earlier this year. Those are required to be completed every year. And in response to your query around my goal would always be to be 100%, the higher the better. We obviously want to be the best that we can be. Realistically, 58% satisfaction is poor, and yes, you've picked up on the fact that we've got 33% of people that have shown that they're fairly dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. That actually goes completely against what we're seeing on our transactional satisfaction, the rant and rave, which is predominantly feedback upon repairs that have been completed. We have done some work with some of our tenants that reported that, because some of them gave us their details when they completed the survey, and a lot of it is just purely down to the time they've had to wait for a responsive repair, which comes back to obviously the backlog that was incurred through COVID, and obviously our struggles to kind of manage the emergencies and then try and get those planned in afterwards. So it's something that we will continue to address, and it's something that we're obviously hopeful we'll see going in the right direction. But I'd much rather see that figure north of 75–80% in line with total customer satisfaction. So yeah, I hope that answers.
Thank you, Craig. And I understand Councillor Reid just wants to add to what Craig said. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Very constructive remark in the 35% that are very dissatisfied. I think we'd all acknowledge that there will always be somebody that's dissatisfied, but there's a long way to go from, say, 1 to 5% and the 35%. I think it gives me the opportunity of saying thank you to those in our repairs team and our improvements team that have gone and do help with the repairs and the improvements that we're doing. There has been a cultural change. It's still changing and it still needs more room to improve. Nobody would disagree with that. You can only do it at a certain pace without breaking a system that was damaged, and I would hope everybody would agree is much repaired, but it's still got a long way to go. And when we do get to that stage, just the same as we're out of the clutches of the social housing regulator, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to have monthly review meetings, so we actually make sure that we stay there. I think one of the things that comes out of this particular page to me, and indeed comes out of the pie chart that's shown, I'm not going to promise to deliver it within this physical term because I wouldn't be able to do so. But what I think we might be worth the scrutiny committee giving me some advice on, and I think maybe that if we had some measure on the time and length of repair, and that was separated into whether it be kitchens, bathrooms, building or whatever, so that the analysis would actually give us a real true mean to be able to understand within the industry partly what was there, but it would also help us to actually measure the length of time that some of the repairs take. Now, we should be able to do that, as if I am right, my gentleman on my right will correct me if I'm not, but our housing management system will be able to tell us that, won't it? So it shouldn't be difficult for us actually to produce next term round. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think Craig will elaborate on the housing management system, but it is a system that basically takes all the information out and then obviously can work on that basis. Do you want to comment, Craig, or not?
I can confirm that will be the case, Chair. Yes, absolutely. We will be able to look at obviously length of repair. We'll be able to provide far better KPI reporting with regards to time taken from report to completion of repair, first time fixes, and obviously better KPI reporting across the board. It will just have numerous benefits, and also the other benefits are with it being a full CRM, customer record maintenance system. Obviously everything when the customer calls into the contact centre or to any member of staff, their full contact history will be displayed, so we'll be able to understand the needs of the individual and the tenant and any outstanding repairs at that point, which currently aren't visible in our current system.
Thank you, Craig. Have I got any more questions, please, from anyone? Councillor Dobson.
Yeah, sorry for my use, but we were told to turn to page 65. And I think I'm right in saying that Councillor Baxter said that there are 35% people dissatisfied. Where does that figure come out of this ring diagram here? Yeah, thanks, Craig.
I think Councillor Baxter was alluding to the fact that we've got 17% which are fairly dissatisfied and 15% that were very dissatisfied, so that makes 32%. So just under a third of respondents were dissatisfied with the service. Just for those members present, just for awareness, there are a number of copies of the summer edition of Skyline at the back of the room for you to pick up after the meeting too.
Thank you, Craig, for clarification. As I pointed out earlier, this item is for noting only, and thank you, Robert, for doing the presentation, and Craig as well. So we now move on to item 11, which is the work programme for 2022 to 23. If you can refer to pages 99 to 102 of your main agenda pack. Just bear with me, I'll get to the appropriate page. I think my observation, is in, sorry, Craig, we were going to talk about the cost of living pressures. I can't remember which one we felt that.
Sorry, Chair, it was the housing allocations and CBL update,
Yeah,
which we'd like to
apologies.
move back to February if at all possible.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Has anyone got any comments? Yeah, Councillor Cleaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of, may I be so bold as to suggest a couple of items for future meetings, please? Firstly, could we have at some point an update on antisocial behaviour and community safety, please? I think it's fairly obvious also to ask for an update on the activities of the cost of living task groups at some point. And I'm not quite sure how this fits into the committee's remit, but obviously it is housing related. And one thing that is quite a hot topic within my town is the issue of social housing, or so-called affordable housing. And I wonder if other members of the committee would be interested in us having a report on the effectiveness of housing need being met through the affordable housing regulations, in terms of the effectiveness of affordable housing which has been provided across, say, the last 3 years of new build across the district, because it is a subject that we do neglect. And I think it's a subject that our electors are actually quite interested in. It's always a controversial subject. How effective is affordable housing? How much does it help our communities? And I can't answer that question. And if it does come within this committee's remit, I think it would be a very interesting and helpful thing for us to actually investigate. And finally, could I notice that health is on here. And so I feel I should make a confession. I sit on, as Councillor Wotton does, Councillor Ray Wotton does, we both sit on the Health Scrutiny Committee for Lincolnshire, and are very interested in the development of primary care networks across Lincolnshire, particularly as the new integrated care system legislation is being brought in and implemented. I have a regular update from the Integrated Care Board, formerly the Clinical Commissioning Group. And during my last contact with them, I suggested that they might like to hold a briefing session for councillors about primary care networks, how they operate and how they're going to operate in future. And I have put that forward to the Chief Executive, but I thought I'd let this committee know that suggestion is on the table, and I'm waiting to see if that is taken up. Thank you.
Yeah, very relevant points, and certainly the primary care is, I'm confident that comes within this committee. I'm just need to check with affordable housing. Would that be something that would come? Obviously, we don't cover planning, do we? I don't know.
I would have thought it would sit more with planning.
Yeah, I did. We can check.
From a delivery point of view, but
yeah, that's what I thought. It's not something we've covered before, but Richard, we'll get clarification.
I think just to finish that point, really.
Yeah.
What was in my mind is if we can see what the effectiveness of the policies are on the housing need, it will help us inform our new local plan being revised up to 2041. So it's that. But yes, I accept that may fall under planning, but of course we don't have a planning.
It does overlap slightly, yeah. Which
is again another issue which we won't raise here, but yeah.
No, a very relevant point, and I'm sure we will certainly discuss that after this meeting. Thank you. And the antisocial behaviour, yes, definitely. I'm hoping to meet with the Chief Inspector soon, so and get a timetable. Obviously, we've got a few other things on the work plan to fit in, but we do have our agenda setting, don't we, to sort that out. So yeah, thank you. Right. Councillor Wootton.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Could we have an update from Craig in future on the good work that's been done on voids?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to take, I'm mindful it's past 4 o'clock now, and we're not taking a break, but we're nearly at the very end of our agenda. So I'll take the question or comment.
Thank you. There were 2 points earlier on that I didn't want to get lost. The first one was, do we consider we've now had the Homes for Ukraine scheme verbal update, or are we expecting Jodie Archer to bring something back to another meeting? And secondly, can just get clarification, the joint meeting that we had with the Environment Overview Scrutiny Group about grounds maintenance, that must be going somewhere. Where is it going to? And when do we accept? I know that there has been progress on that issue, but it hasn't been presented to any public meeting. So where is that going and when?
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. For the issue with the joint meeting, today isn't a place to give a progress report, because it's obviously with a joint meeting with Environment, which is meeting next week. I appreciate what you're saying. There has been strides moving forward, but what?
I'm just
pointing at something I can't see from over here.
I'm just asking if it should be in the work plan. I mean, it's work that affects this committee. This committee met with the other committee to talk about it.
Okay.
It should be in a work plan somewhere. Where is it going?
Thank you. I'll take that to Alan Robinson, please.
I mean, there's no reason why it can't go into the work plan as is normal practice to be allocated to the appropriate time when it's ready to come, Councillor Baxter. So I agree with you. It should be an item to be allocated to a meeting, and we'll try and get that meeting to be as soon as we can, whether that's a special meeting for that particular item or another joint meeting. I'll have to take advice and get back to you on that, but I'm going to assure you you'll be advised immediately as soon as I know when it is.
What?
All right.
All right. I understand Councillor Reid wants to come.
Well, similarly, let's get in the work programme here. That's not an issue. It can be on the next agenda.
Thank you.
More importantly, Madam Chairman, I've got a meeting coming up for Change for Links, the strategic partnership which we're the lead authority is South Kesteven, and our partners are South Holland, West Lindsey and North Kesteven as well, which is coming up on the 13th of October. And so I'd like to see that on the next meeting, the strap line goes over the page, on the 8th of December, I would like for me to be able to give an update on how that partnership is working. There hasn't been much, it's integral, but it's never actually been spoken much about. And so that's the reason of reviewing the partnership. So it'd be good to actually tell you about it. I'd like to just say a one-liner on for the movement of the progress report on the housing allocation policy and choice lettings, which we're asking to be moved from December to February, as our officer here is alluded to. It's not that it's being delayed. There is working progress that's happening there, but there will be a more comprehensive brief for us to give in February rather than to bring back in December. That's the reason for wanting to do that. Yes.
And I have a point of order, Chair. There is now an item on every overview scrutiny committee for announcements from the cabinet members. So far, in the 3 or 4 meetings where that item has been an item, there have been no updates from cabinet members. Can I suggest that Councillor Reid, who is not a member of this committee, if he has things to update us on or announce, that he uses that item on the agenda to announce them?
I won't progress, Madam Chairman, as being the font of all knowledge, nor indeed the most best councillor with etiquette within the council. I will do it to the best of my knowledge, brief, and be very honest and sincere in the way I deliver it. Sorry, it didn't come the way you want it to. Sorry, it wasn't in the mechanism. Just as Bourne Town Council last night, I brought up 3 items at the end of the meeting that should have come under item 6 of county council and district councillors. Sometimes with a busy load, I don't exactly get the things in the protocol that it is. However, I will continue. The capital heating programme that we have, and I think it's timely that I discuss it now and not at the announcements as well. So that's my judgment. So the update for the capital programme heating should proceed and should be constructed and is time for delivery in December, and it will be going to cabinet as well. So I thank you for where that is. It does also schedule for February that we are going to have another update for the much talked about housing management system. So after we've done our members workshop, this will come here as with people with much more up-to-date programming. And I think I'd also like to ask with a helpful nature that unscheduled items, never not wishing to address things that I can manage to give some worthwhile contribution to, then landlords forum and private sector housing, I'm not going to manage to get it scheduled within this term, but I hope I might be in place in the next term, in all sincerity, to actually look at the first meeting within the next physical term to actually move that on. It's something I know cross-party, particular Councillor Charmaine Morgan has had difficulties with and has much concern. Housing is not political to me. It is a section that we do need to actually look at. So I'm hoping that we could just put a little bit more, rather than TBC, we could actually update that one. And the housing revenue business plan, we're doing the workshops and we're doing our consultation and whatever. So I would like to think that that could be included in our February meeting, please, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. No, I just personally want to thank you for all your hard work. You know, as a team, it has been a team effort, and I think that needs to be recognised. I know there is a process and there are points of orders, but please don't let it get lost with all the good work that's been done.
Rest assured it doesn't. I'm not a font of all knowledge. I just try to do my best.
But we can only strive to do our best. Thank you, Craig.
I just wanted to just clarify another of Councillor Baxter's queries. The verbal update on the Ukraine settlement scheme was provided at the last meeting. The action was for us to just come back with additional community events that were going on to support that. So if you wanted a further future update, then obviously that's at your request.
Thank you, Craig. Just
to follow on about that, I mean, in all sincerity, Councillor Baxter is asking about the update on the situation in Ukraine, which is serious and whatever. To the best of my knowledge at the moment, there's 153 families in the district which we are managing with various circumstances. It has been to exec briefing, and I'm quite happy to for us to issue an update so that everybody is notified as to where we actually are. The one thing in actually mentioning it, to particularly want to emphasise, I know we've done it in Bourne, we have actually had a meeting between the Ukraine families, a couple of our town councillors, and indeed a representative from the county council, because often it's education and those sort of issues which are really quite technical and difficult for these people, and there are language situations. So yeah, we can provide, we can publish on the facts an updated publication on the exec meeting that we recently had, Craig. Yeah, okay. I hope you found that helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Reid. Right, I'm now going to move on to item 12. Any other business? Do we have any other business? I take that as a no. So I just want to thank everyone for attending today, and particularly to the officers, members, for their updates, and cabinet members and reports. As you know, it's been quite a heavy discussion today, but I think we've covered a lot of material and subjects, and I just want to pass on my thanks to everyone involved. And hopefully we'll be back here the 8th of December. I just want to wish you all a safe journey home, and I declare the